Welcome, welcome. I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription for Your Transformation, Real People, Real Conversations, and Real Success. And one of my favorite books of all time, one of the first very philosophical books that I ever read, was the Tao Te Ching. And this is an ancient philosophy for any of those people who are not aware of that. And what's so incredible to me is listening to these old philosophers and realizing whatever was relevant at that time actually is very relevant today. And seeing the advancement of our humanity, our essence, our existence, everything about us has advanced so much, but the real essence of who we really are probably hasn't changed at all. And so what was relevant 5,000 years ago is very relevant today. And so the very statement that I'm thinking of is this one: those who know do not speak, and those who speak do not know. And that's very relevant for our talk today, because I'm very excited to be talking to Liana. She is a CEO and founder of SHL Coaching, a business and career coaching expert with a phenomenal background, not only because where she comes from, in the essence of where she started off in her life in a completely different dimension, if you will, in marketing and corporate America and everything else, found that she was in a very fast lifestyle and realized and had the courage to make a major shift. And that shift that she does so successfully now is really, diving deep into our own personal programming so that we can change the way that we live, understanding, or perhaps not even understanding, but becoming aware of that very particular programming that sets us in the path that we're in, realizing that perhaps this is not where we want to go, and finding the tools and the access to make those changes. So, Liana, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Bart, so much. I'm loving being on your podcast. It's just such an honor, and appreciate you for bringing the best out of people. Very grateful, because since our last podcast that we did together, I actually had people reaching out, and some of them scientists, and that was really flattering. And I also got clients because they said, you know what, we didn't even know that that you can know all that stuff, and you can talk about that on that level, and people loved you as well. So I'm so honored, and thank you for inviting me again. I'm very grateful.
No, thank you. Thank you for those kind words. But more importantly, thank you for the new insights that I received from you today. And particularly, one thing that we'll talk about in a little bit is, what is that blind spot that shows up in your life? Another thing that we're going to talk about, and this is the third item, by the way, that we discussed prior to our call today, was secondary gain. I want people to understand, the importance of that concept. And sometimes I still have a challenge really understanding it and grasping it. I'm sure a lot of people with that new awareness. But let's talk about two things first. Number one is a little bit about your background, because I think it's fascinating. I love the fact how you've made a complete transformation for yourself. And then let's go ahead and dive into giving yourself permission to be yourself.
That's beautiful. The permission, it's just my favorite. Okay, so first things first. Hi, everybody. My name is Liana Khutsurauli. My path that I walked, it was pretty crazy. I was born in Ukraine, and I was raised in Russia. A very sensitive, highly analytical girl, and it already sounds like a mess up, because when you have emotional sensitivity, and you have high analytics, and nobody teaches you, nobody mentors you how to digest your emotions and how to communicate, how to listen to your body and feel and understand your body, what it needs and what it wants, and respect its desires. What we do, we actually are ashamed for feeling feelings, right? And those feelings are we think that other people judge us. Then what we do, we're ashamed of ourselves, and we want to be loved. That's number one human need, in human need psychology, that's number one need. It's a need for love. And what we do, because we want to love so much, we start pressing down our emotions and putting up the mask, right? And the mask, the sustaining that mask, it takes an enormous energy. living an authentic life. So that was my case. And then with the analysis, right, and the analytical people will understand me when you just sit at home and you're trying to be perfect and you spin, and the anxiety gets in the picture, right? You lose your sleep, and it's just like you're just anxious all the time. And I was in that place. And I also wanted my mom to love me. And I felt that I wasn't good enough. So I was trying to do whatever it took, right? Because at some point I learned that my mom loves presents, and my mom loved to be financially secure. So for me, that was number one priority. And I went to study economics. I have masters in investments and innovations, right? Corporate marketing. So from there, I was like stuck in that wasn't interesting for me, that didn't turn me on. And I went and I did some marketing for my friend's company, and then I did some commercial real estate, and I was great with people. It's just always something that I had. I was great with people. I could connect on a deeper level, and it was just some, God-given gift. And at that point, because I was so tunnel vision, I was like, okay, so if I'm worth anything, I need to make a lot of money. So I made a lot of money. I made my first million when I was 21. And then, it kind of like rolled, and I continued making money. I was dating, the richest people back in Russia. And at that point, I thought that if I reach certain level, I'm going to get this approval, and I'm going to feel good about myself. This is if I'm going to reach this level, everybody has their own level in their mind, then I'll be happy. And what happened is I reached a certain level of comfort, and then I understood that I'm not happy, and moreover, I'm more miserable because of that money and that lifestyle that attracted more attention. And I wanted love so much, so I started trading money for love, right? I'm going to do this for you so you can love me. All that stuff. And I have a lot of clients that come to me, and, right away I tell them, you're just trying to buy love. Buy love from their family, buy love in their relationships. They're serving other people in order to get love, right? And I'm not saying it's bad to serve other people, but then do you serve it out of the feeling of wholeness that fills you up and you just want to give, or are you serving because you're afraid that they're going to leave you if you won't, right? That the root of that, it has deep down in us the belief that we're not good enough. So I think this is very important to talk about that, because in my way, I got really depressed. I was depressed. I was drinking a lot, like excessively. I can't say that I was an alcoholic, but I would wake up in the morning and I would think, okay, no more. That's it. And the day goes by, the night comes, and it was just intolerable to feel all that turmoil, to feel all those emotions, to feel bored with myself, to hate myself for not being able to find a way. Nobody coached me at that time. There was no Tony Robbins back in Russia at that time, So that's what I got, right? And at that time, I just realized, okay, so there has to be more than this. There just has to be. It can't be all that it is. But I was really frustrated, so I kind of left. And then I've started learning about myself through acting. This is one thing that I was, interested in. And again, right, becoming an actress, what did I want to achieve with that? I went there for the wrong reason, because I went there because I wanted love and attention. But the thing is, when you're so unstable emotionally, when you're so feeling that deep down that you don't not good enough, you can't handle a judgment that comes with all that popularity. When people know you, like even now I have like my Instagram profile. I can't say that I have like millions of followers, but I have my couple of grand of followers, and some people are haters, and some people just, criticize you, and some people take their time to create a whole long letter to let you know how bad you are, right? And why do they do that? It's because they just want to express their pain at you, because their own reality is so intolerable that they want to just go and spend their time writing that out, creating a message, and have you feel it. And through that, they feel themselves that they're better than you are.
Right.
And that's how they heal themselves, right? And we're not judging those people, because that's just the way of coping, and nobody taught them, like myself, nobody taught me back then that, you know, that this is just the emotions that you need to process, right?
Well, before we talk about that, just I'm curious about one thing. I mean, what was the turning point for you? I mean, what was that moment that you said no more? And how did that happen?
There's always one. Okay, it was actually pretty random. I just got drunk. I was dancing in the table. I think I was 23 years old, and I totally fell off the table. And I was like, you know, wearing those diamonds, and you know, this like I remember like it was yesterday. It was like beautiful Gucci suit with like this fur right here, and I'm like just crashing off the table in this fashionable place that everybody knows everybody, and I'm like lying down on the floor looking up, and you know, like in those movies, like soccer playing movies or something, when they just knock a person off, and like the round of heads, like, you know, like being like circling around.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like laying down, I'm looking at people, and you know, a couple of celebrities came up to me, and they're like, Liana, you're okay. And I'm like laying there, and I'm looking at them, and I'm drunk as hell, and I'm sobered up, right? Because the adrenaline kicked in, and I was just like, okay. And I'm laying down, and I'm thinking, I think I need to reevaluate my life. This becomes dangerous. And that's this, yeah, the just, you know, the feeling kicked in. My defense mechanism worked in a way that I was really close to breaking my neck, and I could have been, able till the rest of my life, just because I wasn't cautious, and I didn't think about it, and I was looking for, you know, hurting myself. That was the programming that I had underneath, because I was such a victim in my subconscious mind. And even though you would never think about me when you would look at me from the side, because the surface, the mask that I was wearing, but I was so deep down victimized.
Right.
And when we have that program, we always seek for something so people can feel bad for you. And we start manifesting these situations that they just come to our reality. And this is because this is linked as the easiest way how to get love and connection from people. So without the conscious realization, what we do, we just start generating these situations so we can feel love. And it's beautiful and it's sad at the same time. And I just want people to become more aware of that. They don't have to be victims. They don't have to spend, you know, decades like myself feeling that way.
So let's talk a little bit about one thing first. But I want to acknowledge you for making that shift very early on. I mean, at the age of 23, with all the success that you had, you know, it could have been very easy for you just to stay in that track and just, you know, downplay, deny, you know, all this inner turmoil within you, and just live life and go through that rut of life that many people do. And perhaps not as intense as what you experienced at that time, but still so many people out there just generally just not happy and not having the courage to make the shift. And one of the cool things about the kind of work that you do and I do is that when people come to us, you know, they start asking, okay, what is it that I can do differently? You know, help me, coach me, and do these things. And that's one thing that you do. And in a very brilliant way with your neurolinguistic programming, I know you do hypnotherapy. You use that science, if you will, to help people with what we like to also call guided meditation, because in essence, that's what it is. Because you're right about the programming. And I just want to stay there for a moment. And it's interesting is that our programming arrives from the way that we get to experience life from very, very early on, even as a baby. And what's interesting with that, for the listeners, is to appreciate the fact that you make a lot of immature decisions as a child based on the reality that's around you. And oftentimes these decisions are not accurate, but your immature brain doesn't understand or can't process the reality of that. And so you make a decision like, well, if this happens, then I'm not going to be loved, or if this happens, I'm not going to be enough. So you make decisions about hunger or about being alone, all these different things. And they get, stuck in your unconscious mind. And a lot of people have this kind of weird feeling about the unconscious mind. The truth is that we have a conscious mind, we have an unconscious mind, and our unconscious mind basically runs our whole body, runs our physiology, runs our emotions, runs our memories, all these things. But because it's such a black box for most of us, or for all of us actually, it's kind of freaky for many of us. Like, oh my gosh, what's going on there? I don't even know what's down there. And so that's cool. What you get to do is you get to help people tap into that unconscious part within us and help us, reprogram ourselves or kind of let go of certain programming that doesn't serve us. And so one thing that I like that you said to me earlier on, and this is a very important platform for me as well, is giving yourself permission to be human. Just giving yourself permission. And what I like what you shared earlier on is that when people judge, there's two things, and I'm going to let you take over in a moment, but there's two things that happen when you judge people. Number one, you're actually dealing with an issue with yourself. And so it's really a matter of you having the courage to say, well, hang on a second, I'm judging this person, but I'm really judging myself. And the other part is that when you do judge someone, I don't care what it is, it's any kind of criticism, whatever, you don't see the greatness in that person. And that's one of the coolest insights that I was able to receive through my mentors and coaching, is that having an opinion about something, about someone is great, and seeing the greatness of that person as well. And so tell me a little bit about how you help people, because oftentimes when we, like you said, when you're critical of somebody else, it's because it allows you to feel more significant. It allows you to feel more important. So how do you help people when it comes down to this no judgment, or helping them overcome, or letting people be themselves? What is your approach for that?
I think this is huge. I really like this topic. It's really close to my heart, just because I have been suffering from that myself. A perfectionist, right, have to do everything perfect. Even today I was doing my taxes, right, and I'm like, I want to send that filled out form as perfect as possible. And then I called them up and I'm like, you know what, I'm having issues like filling all the fields out. I don't understand what I need to put there. And they say, just do this to the best of your ability. And I was like, just do this to the best of your ability. And I was like, catching myself, right? Why do I want to do this perfect? They are professionals. Delegate. If you did something wrong, they're going to communicate to you, and then you're going to come up with a decision together. Share that problem with other people, right? But then in order to do that, we just need to allow ourselves and to give ourselves permission to make a mistake, right? And I think that's really beautiful, because a lot of people, come to me, and the readiness for change is when people start taking responsibility. This is number one step, right? Because yes, we are not coached and not trained, and we don't know how to process the feelings. And sometimes they're so strong. So feelings are just like, it's a guilt, right? Mm-hmm. It's a feeling of guilt. There's something wrong with me. I am guilty. And I always make a metaphor that it's like a hot potato that you're holding and you're trying to throw it at other people. You're like, oh, here we go. Catch it, right? I don't want it to burn me. And other people catch it and they're like, oh, this is freaking burning me. They'll like, go ahead, go take it back, right? And what I do in my work, I think it's really cool, literally, because I cool down this potato. Mm-hmm. And then we're able to open it up and see what's inside. And sometimes inside most of the times it's a lot of yummy stuff inside. So
Well,
this is
not
what
if you're on a keto diet, but that's okay. That's something else. Go ahead.
you know what? I eat anything I want. I mean, like I try to stay away from animal protein. Sometimes I slip down. It's just not good for my body, but this is a different conversation. But I
But
eat
but what's but what's true? What you said. There's always a gift inside, and I think that's a key point that we can recognize that when you do this kind of work, there's always a gift.
yeah. So first of all, what people need to realize, and this is one of my, main teachings, is you just got to understand that you are on your own path and other people on their own path. And what you're doing when the thought comes, right? Oh, they're doing something wrong. This is because it's not aligned with your belief system. But guess what? You have your unique number of beliefs in your subconscious mind, unique, and subconscious mind is programmed to be right. And another person has their own unique number of programs, and that's what creates their perspective, their vision, their focus, their feelings, right? Because the certain filters, the algorithms in our unconscious programming works. If this, therefore this. If that person looked at me like this, therefore they're judging me. If they raised their eyebrows, therefore they didn't like me, right? Or he didn't say hi to me, oh, something's wrong with me, right? Like I did something wrong. So we constantly unconsciously projecting that on other people. When I just had one of my best friends nowadays, she's my client, and then I just love her. She's just a sunshine. People like they walk in the room and it's just like filled out with sunshine. And I love being around her, like warming up. They're just so nice. And it's funny, we recently had a conversation. She said, and we constantly she's very conscious and we're constantly sharing breakthroughs. And she said, Liana, I just had an amazing breakthrough. I just thought that everything that I've been perceiving from other people, I remember when we worked with her, when she was surrounding herself with lower quality people, right? And I could not understand. I mean, I could, but I was just like, I was telling her, I cannot understand why do you hang out with that quality people, because you deserve more. You're on a different level. And the people that she surrounded herself with are broken people, right? With deep problems, and she wasn't qualified to help them. But there was a secondary gain, and I'll explain that later, what that means, that she was getting from being there. And then she said, I just realized how conscious you should be to realize such a thing. That she said, I didn't think that I was good enough to hang out with strong people and people that are powerful and people that, have a lot of tools and they're valuable. I felt I wasn't good enough for that. So I was surrounding myself with those people so I can be better than them, and I felt better about myself. And she confessed, she said, even with you, I couldn't allow myself. I was avoiding being friends with you. And I was like, you are crazy. And I felt that. And I said, that's the thing. I was wondering, why doesn't she want to be friends with me? And I wanted to be her friend. But she, on her side, she thought I didn't want to be her friend because she felt, what can I give her? Whereas I was feeling I was diving into sunshine. And
it's interesting what you're talking about, because so much programming that happens is so unconscious, and we're just simply not aware of what things actually truly mean. And it's interesting because as you were talking about, how people respond to raising your eyebrows and things like that. I have a picture of myself when I was about 3 years old, and my hands are, it's a picture of me like this. And then oftentimes, I'm like this. And people immediately make all sorts of judgments. And these are just mannerisms that I learned from being a child of 2 or 3 years old, looking at my dad, and because this is what my dad always did, and he always did this. And this is unfortunate how we can totally misunderstand what the world is really wanting to tell us, and we miss out so much. And so one thing that, secret for any of those people out there about hanging around people that are better than you, in essence, as far as accomplishments and everything else, the secret is that you're going to want to grow. And the best way to grow is to hang around people that are smarter than you and that have a higher standard than you, because that means you're going to grow into that. And oftentimes these people that are in that place realize that at one point they were where you were, and very respectful and very kind and empathetic for that too. But the point of the matter is that and this is an interesting perspective, I think, is that so many people put themselves down because they compare themselves with other people. And for the longest time, being in the Tony Robbins world, I was always comparing myself with him. You know, I'm a similar age of him, and think I'm never going to be him, right? But what's interesting is that the real comparison that you're going to want to make, that we can all make, is where did I come from and where am I now and where am I going, versus, you know, how do I compare myself with somebody else? Because just as you said, everybody has their unique talent. They have their unique skills. They have this unique genius about them that makes them completely different than everyone else. And so that's what we get to honor. So giving yourself permission to see the greatness in you, but also having the responsibility and accountability for any of the weaknesses or mistakes that you make. And I think that's a key point that I know that you emphasize with all of your clients. But tell us a little bit about secondary gain, because this is an important part in helping people appreciate why they're so stuck in doing the same thing over and over again. And it relates to also your past, I guess, being that victim and staying in that place. So explain the whole concept of secondary gain.
Yeah, in a second, I just want to piggyback on the greatness in you, right? And everybody is you know, so the universe is based on the principle of duality. There is pain and there is joy. There is darkness and there is light, right? There is God and there is devil, and it's all about duality. And what I love people to realize, that we just live on the spectrum, right? So there is negative and there is positive, and it doesn't mean that it's bad or good. It's just it, and it's just there, because without pain you wouldn't appreciate joy. I once went on the experiment, and I was for about a month, I was just trying to not to feel any emotions, right? And it worked. I was completely irrelevant to any emotions. I was like just walking around observing, right? And what I discovered, I've lost the zest for life. Even the food stopped being tasty. Because when you remove, and I try to not to feel negative emotions, when you remove negative emotions from the spectrum, you numbing the whole spectrum. And that's really important, because when you say you see your greatness, I would add to that, see your suckness too, but then be cool about that.
Right.
Accept that, right? Because this is just a part of the spectrum. And sometimes you have to be great, and sometimes you have to be weak. And there is also strength and weakness. And the problem that people have, they don't accept those qualities about themselves. And when they don't, like, the thing is, when you're annoyed or disturbed by something in other people, this is an indication that this is the quality that is in you. Mm-hmm. It exists in your body. It exists in your universe. You have this information, that frequency within you. But what you do, you're suppressing it. You don't allow yourself to accept it and feel that and be that. And from that, since you're the God of the universe, right, you're walking around and everything from your own personal perspective, and then you see another person coming in, doing right in your face what you don't let yourself to do. How freaking annoying, right? So number one thing is to accept those qualities and just allow yourself to be lazy, greedy, all that stuff, because it doesn't mean that if you accept it, you're going to turn into that. But the paradox of that, once you remove it, you stop having it in your life right in your face. And before that, it always pops, because this is your inner vibration that stimulates you to put your focus on that exactly. Now, about the secondary gain.
Let me add one thing before you say that. And this was an epiphany for me about 3 years ago, when I went on a humanitarian trip to Ecuador. And the a very neat experience, and it was filmed and documented and everything else. But part of the prep work was, what is it that you want to get out of this event? What is it that you want to get out of this trip? And we were lecturing in the largest university in South America at that time. And so in that preparation, I thought to myself, well, who am I? What is my brand? And I was going through my own transformation, from expanding from just plastic surgery to many, many more things that I do today. And it was really the genesis of the radio show and the platform that I created. And it was really about me giving myself permission to be human, number one, but even more so, and just, adding to what you just said, celebrating my faults and my weaknesses. So that meant that it wasn't just allowing them to be, but just it was now exciting for me to be aware of my faults and my weaknesses, because now I can do something about it. And to your point, going on this trip with 30, strangers, I thought to myself, what's the best part of this? And it's not so much meeting everybody else and their greatness and everything else, but noticing how I get to show up. What triggers me? What happens to me? What is it that I'm doing? What is it I'm thinking? What is it that I'm feeling? So that I can now make the shifts that I want to make. And it's exactly what you say, and it's taking responsibility for that, not making it wrong or right, but then having the audacity, but the courage to say, you know what? I want something else. I want to step up my standard. I want to be better. And what is that I can now do? So now go ahead with your secondary gain.
That's beautiful. Congratulations on having that epiphany, because that's where we all start with the huge breakthrough about that. And that's when you can be not only, helping yourself, but also helping other people and have an amazing feeling of, how rewarding this is. So with secondary gain, I like this metaphor that I came up with. So think about, if I'm going to tell you, Bart, I'm going to give you a pill that will make you suffer for 3 days.
Actually, give it to Sedona, because she's been really quiet down there, and I haven't asked her any questions. So give Sedona this pill.
I'm going to give you a pill that will make you suffer physically tremendously for 3 days. Would you take it? She's like, I'm a masochist, I will. What? We can't hear you.
I can't hear you, Sedona.
Hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I said, do you get to not suffer after that?
No. You're going to be like physically suffering. Your pain will be, your body will be screaming of pain for 3 days. And I'm going to tell you, Sedona, here you go. Take this pill. Would you take it?
No.
Okay. I'm going to tell you, Sedona, I'm going to give you $50,000. Would you take it?
No.
Okay. I'm going to tell you, Sedona, I'm going to give you $1 million. Would you take that pill when you're going to be suffering for 3 days tremendously?
Probably not.
Think about it, $1 million, like how your life would change.
Yes, she would. I'm going to answer that. Well, I will. Okay.
I won't.
Okay. The bar goes higher. I'm going to give you $100 million. Would you take it? $100 million.
I don't think I would want to have that much money. It's kind of like the whole lottery question. Like, I never want to
Don't give me that bullshit. Come on.
No, it's true. Like, I think I would just go crazy. Like, I don't think.
All right, I'll go for the $100 million. Okay, what's next?
You go? Okay, wonderful. So, Bart, if you're going to take that pill for, that will make you suffer for 3 days, right?
Okay, can I share the winnings with Sedona afterwards or not?
Yeah, you can show her the rich life. And break her beliefs about that money is bad, or money, the belief that she has, the link that if I have a lot of money, it will stop me from my development. That's why she just told me this, right? Because it's your personal belief system. It's your personal belief that you have based on your experience in life, right? And this is completely 100% right for you. I don't make you wrong right now, because this is right for you. This is the truth that you've been feeling and living. But then if you remove that belief, you will understand that money is just money. growth is just growth. Rich people are just rich people. They don't have to be bad or good. They're just rich people, and what you do with the rest is on you, right? So this is the work that I do with separating all those concepts and integrating that in the people's subconscious mind. They do that themselves. I think it's much more empowering that I would do that. Or just like, that when people realize everything themselves and they're ready to grow themselves, that's the main thing that they need to shift on the next level. I love that much more than, I'll be like convincing them and doing something.
So now I got the 100 million. What's next?
All right, yeah, that's what I wanted to go back to. So you got the 100 million, and you are suffering for 3 days from that pain, right?
Right.
So if you think about pain is pain in real life, this is what we experience: physical pain, uncomfortability, emotional pain, pressure, right? And then you have 100 million is your secondary gain, because you are exchanging that pain because you believe that you can't make that 100 million in another way, right? In other way that will be like, accessible to you, right? So you take that pain. And if you think about it, we're not crazy. We're not, experiencing pain for a bunch of paper. We're experiencing
so give
pain for
give us a real example though. Give me a real example of secondary gain as you have seen with some people that you coached.
I'm going there. So okay. with our money, what it means, right? It means security. It means significance. It means love and connection, appreciation, right? It means growth. It means creation. So all that stuff is emotional to us. Or the secondary gain that what I described, right? I had a state of victim. Being a victim was so important to me because that was the only way how I was experiencing love.
Right.
That was the easiest way. Because if you think about subconscious, it's just a door. What it does, it finds an algorithm. Like we give it a task, right? We need to get this or experience this emotion or feeling, right? And the subconscious goes, it analyzes everything, all the programming that it has, all the blockages, right? The minuses, like the dead ends there. And including those and analyzing all those, the subconscious needs to find the shortest algorithm possible to execute the task.
Right.
So if in my case was, here's blocked, love is blocked here, love, you can trust, right? Nobody loves you, you are not good enough, you're not beautiful enough, and so on. Even you're like, I believe my mom didn't love me enough, so I thought, like, if my mom doesn't love me, like, who would, kind of a thing. So that was just my personal belief. I was caught up in that. So in my case, the shortest algorithm was, that's what I learned from my experience. If I am suffering, people care. Therefore, unconsciously, I would bring on this suffering to myself so I can get that connection and love and appreciation, sometimes attention. So when you get so many gains from that, it's a very strong secondary gain to just let go of it. And people suffer and they don't know.
Right. So just let me say it in a different way, and the way that I like to share it is that when people are stuck in this whole idea of secondary gain, is because they believe that they're going to get something. They want to resolve something. They want to have a different, say, lifestyle, but they're behaving in a certain way to get something that they think they want. But it's the very thing that they're doing that's keeping them from getting what it is that they want. So when you're that victim and you want love and connection, and you play the martyr and play the victim and everything else, looking for that love, and then you're getting all this attention, right? So it keeps you in this, rat hole, if you will, of staying here and not resolving what's really going on, so that you can actually get what you call that authentic love, that authenticity from other people, and it's not forced. And it happens all the time. And it's interesting when we start, and that's why I say let's celebrate our faults and our weaknesses, because when we're aware of that programming that doesn't actually serve us at the highest level, if we're really honest with ourselves, and I'm sure that's what you were feeling, and that was the internal conflict running in your conscious mind that you finally said, I got to change my life?
It's worse than what you said. It's worse because when I was a victim, I didn't realize I was a victim. I thought everything was fine because I did not know different things in life. Now, looking back, I understand that. I remember my acting teacher. I've done acting too for our audience that didn't catch that maybe. When my acting teacher, rest in peace, Eden Bernardi, she was an incredible human being. She was a psychologist as well and a writer as an acting coach. She told me once, and I was crying like this, right? I was just crying all the time, and I was like, oh my God, I'm such a good of an actress. And then she said, listen, don't be a victim. Nobody wants to watch a woman in the movie that has no strength and feels bad for herself. I was so deeply offended, and I loved her so much, so it really got to me. The inflammation that is the conflict, right, between my conscious mind and unconscious mind was immense. And I was so hurt by that. I was like, oh my God, I'm not a victim. Why is she telling me this? And now I see that with my clients when they come to me. I can't just tell them, oh, you're a victim, right? I can ask them questions and make them realize what they have been doing. And I have to do that very, very delicately because I don't want to trigger their guilt. Because once people start feeling that they are guilty of that, they start putting up guard, and then good luck going through it, right? So one of the methodology that I'm going to talk about to you later is that method when we just remove the sense of a guilt. And it's interesting that our subconscious and our body starts communicating to us after that. Because once we cool down the potato, which is guilt, we can actually connect and we can actually see what is that secondary gain in our bodies that makes us do that. So
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that blind spot that we have. And I love the way that you put it. This is a new technique that you've learned and have used very, very successfully. And that's going through the back door and identifying that blind spot that we can't normally see and making that shift.
Yeah. So I went to Kazakhstan. I recently had this huge seminar, like the biggest seminar I've had. It was like a business mastery, marketing mastery. And it was like 500 people. So it was like huge success, right? Like Tony Robbins would be proud. And I'd seen those ladies that were coming up to me, and they were like, Liana, you talk so much about the subconscious, about the programming. We have this amazing technique that we want to represent to you. And that concept, like MLM concept. And I was like, no, thank you, but no, thank you. And, I was completely blocked out from that. And there was also like, a little snobbish thing. Like I studied with the best of the best in the world, people that are just incredible, worldwidely known. And then, some kind of methodology, like from Kazakhstan. I'm like, seriously? Like Borat? Yes. But like, subconscious technique? So I'm guilty of that. And I'm cool with that, being guilty. And then I met a lady. She invited me for dinner, and she is a shareholder of the company, and she gave me this little thing book. And in that book, I started reading it on the way back because I had nothing to do on the plane. I was like, okay, I'm just going to read it. Okay, whatever. And I was stunned because of the principles, because I know how the subconscious mind and conscious mind communicates and works. And that was completely different from the classical standpoints of like, hypnotherapy or NLP or like you name it. I haven't seen anything like that. It's very simple. The point of that is whatever you want in your life and you don't have it, there is a reason in your subconscious why you don't have it. The secondary gain that you have unconsciously linked up before, back in the childhood or whatever, the early events, right? The sensitizing events, how we call it in hypnosis. That event created that. So because of that secondary gain, you don't have that. And sometimes you can have multiple secondary gains from that. So it's completely blocked out. And consciously, you want to have that. It makes sense. Other people have it, but unconsciously you understand and you feel it, that there's something bad will happen if you have that. And then that methodology allows us to see that. So as if you have something bad in your life, like, sometimes it's psychosomatic disease, and you keep having it in your life, and doctors say, we don't know, we don't understand what's happening. It's just, your body does that. Like I had, for example, with my knee, that 2 years I was suffering with the cartilage in my knee, and I couldn't even work out, and I was frustrated. The doctors were like, we don't know, it's an autoimmune disease, and your body just destroys your knee for some reason. We don't know why. Maybe it's an allergy or something. And for years I was suffering. I had zero problems with that now. My hip also, that, I had labrum tear with, like, skiing and stuff. And the doctor said, labrum never heals. You will always have that. Just make sure that you're never gonna get that rip, that tear, not gonna go further. So your socket where your bone, like the leg bone goes into, is not, like, loose, because people have it worse. And I had it, inflamed constantly, and now magically it's gone, right? Because we're not even aware sometimes that we punish ourselves for something whenever we feel guilt. Guilt is the worst, worthless thing you can feel in life. It completely destroys you. It completely destroys relationships. It just keeps you in the place where you are, and even, make you decadence. So from that standpoint, right, when we find what is our secondary gain that we get from, not having what we want, for example, making a lot of money. My brother had a belief, if I make a lot of money, other people will come and ask for that, and I have to share. So what's the point to make a lot of money if I have to give it away? Right? It's completely logical. Now, one thing that I want to share, so you just understand it, and I think it's a screaming case, and I love to give that example. I had a gentleman that came to me, very educated, from a very good family, successful family, and he says, I'm educated, I graduated from one of the top schools. I don't understand why I don't make money. And he does, good minimum, but not like way below that he's capable of. And he says, doesn't make any sense to me. So, and we start working on that. And he closes his eyes, he imagines this image, right? And the technique goes like, you say, I'm rich, or I'm wealthy. And then you see what's frustrating or confusing, or like has some negative association or vibration about that picture, and you target it. So he says, and I'll be like very blunt with this is what happened. He says, I see that around me, I'm on a yacht, and around me, dirt and horse. I was like, wonderful. So we do the process of removing the guilt, right? So he can go deeper. And then he asks his subconscious mind, why does he need that, right? What's the secondary gain in that? And the information that comes now, like, it's like every level is best than the previous one. The fear of castration comes up. He is shocked. He had no idea that he had such thing. And it's not me. I did not tell him that. It just popped out of his subconscious mind, and he was responsive to that gladly. And then we do the process again. We remove that level of guilt. And then he goes deeper, and what next level that comes out is incest. And that was like, now he's like completely taking aback. He's just doesn't understand what the hell was that. He looks at me surprised. And then next level that we went into, he says, I see a picture, me being 4 years old. My father doesn't give my mother love that she wants, and I want to give her love. And to my sister as well, because they don't get love from our father. And, as a child, as you talked about, it would be this. As a child, we are not resourceful, so we just link those things, and we just, associate that. with whatever, and the programming stays there. Doesn't matter where we're of that programming or not. So then we transformed that. He ran to the bathroom immediately. So like, the blockage in the body released. Happens a lot, by the way. And after that, he told me, you know what? The girls that I used to date all the time were like girls that I felt that they were like dirty or like not my level or quote unquote slaves. And the reason of that, he didn't understand why that was happening. And I said, okay, so if you meet a girl that is your level and you like her and everything is great, what's going to happen? He says, I'm going to marry her. Okay, if you're going to marry her, what's going to happen? He says, I'm going to have kids with her. And I said, and you have subconscious programming of incest, right? So if the programming is there, it's always going to come to reality if you go that direction. That's why your subconscious tries to protect you and not let you to go that direction. So yeah.
So one of the cool things about that, and for any of the listeners listening in, is to appreciate the fact that a lot of what we do today, whether we're aware of it or not, most of it of which we're not, is really a result of all sorts of programming from very early on and decisions that we made about the reality around us. And so the cool thing about the coaching process and things that you get to do, but we can do this on our own. And that's simply just, deciding, okay, well, I'm not happy with what I'm doing right now. I'm not happy with what I'm feeling right now. I would like to have something different. And it probably originates from somewhere in my past. And you don't even have to know what that is. I think sometimes it can be helpful, like the work that you do, to really figure out what that is. But if you're on your own, you can actually say, okay, great. There's a reason for this. This pain, this disturbance, this is interesting. This makes sense. So something needs to be healed, something needs to be heard, or something needs to be held. And this is actually from Robert Dilts. I have to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
And then say, thank you. Thank you for this information. Thank you for this insight. So now I can make the changes. Because ultimately, for us to be happy, we have to resolve whatever makes us unhappy. It's really that simple. And we have to take responsibility. And part of that is also finding people like Liana, which I think we could talk forever tonight. And Sedona has been giving me the cues. I think I have 90 seconds left. So just to wrap it up, how do people find you, Liana?
My website, www.starthappylife.com. I am also very active on Instagram, liana.starthappylife, or Facebook, Liana Delmar. Just put Liana Delmar, you're going to find my long second last name, so you can just tap into that. And overall, Start Happy Life, SHL coaching. You Google it, it's going to pop. I'm getting more and more popularity. Is that even a word in English?
Popularity, yes,
My Russian English comes out to the end. All right. So you guys reach out. I'm very available, and I would love to help if somebody feels that I can help them or serve them.
Well, you can absolutely help so many people out there. You have such incredible talents and some new insights that you can help so many people. But I want to thank you for tonight. It's been absolutely wonderful, very insightful. And I am Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription for Your Transformation, Real People, Real Conversations, Real Success. Sedona, I kept you off the hook as long as I could. And but next time you're back on, and I'll be challenging you as well. So both of you, thank you so much, and I'll be back next week.
Thank you so much, Bart. You are incredible. I really appreciate you. Thank you for this work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you to you.